If somebody wants to go first and get it done, no.
Not a lot going on in this one, so.
You good, Beth? I'd like to call the February 26th Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance Budget Meeting to order. Please join me for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So registrars first, 3.13 budget increase. They're another department that gets affected by the minimum wage increase, so you'll see the poll workers' salaries go up, because we gotta, the workers that work the polls, so that's one that will affect that also, but you'll see everything else is down. And Maria and Mary have been really working on, building this budget, because this is their first year or second year doing it? First, so,
You have to click on your button.
Yep.
And just leave it.
It's our first because we inherited the previous administration's budget.
yep. Any questions?
The dollars are going up because of increased polling hours? Is continuing increase in polling hours, or?
The 21.5% increase. Leave it green.
Just leave it green. Click it and leave it.
The minimum wage has increased again, so there's some wage compression.
Okay.
It got to the point where our moderators and assistant registrars were making the same as the person that hands out the stickers. So there's a level of responsibility that wasn't being compensated for.
And we have all the early voting hours in there. I know we had it last year too, but that makes a difference too on what our poll workers.
Yeah, last year with this budget, we had was the first early voting.
Yes,
So, we used to have our registrars budgeted for 2 days a week, but with the early voting, that was not sustainable. So we changed that up a little bit last year, so.
But it looks like this is more like a
This one is,
80% increase on salaries other
Yeah,
versus what we expect to spend this year?
yeah,
If I take the 65 and divide it by the
yeah.
39,700,
Part-
if that's a correct number.
That's correct, because part of the issue is I believe we're gonna have a primary next year, and we didn't have one this year, so.
Well,
so
and we
there's
still have a referendum this year that hasn't been paid for yet.
Yeah,
So that's
The 30
that's
Kind
gonna,
of a wash.
the
Yeah.
year-to-date estimate, I think, does include that, but the year-to-date actual does not.
Isn't it also true that a lot of others, like Waterbury pays a bit more than towns like Southbury can afford?
oh,
I think hourly they may pay more, but I mean, that's something that they have to work out with their fiscal.
I know, but I know when I was your moderator, I would receive requests from another town to come because they would pay me slightly more money, but I'm dedicated to Southbury, so I stay with you guys. So.
I was just about to
We
say
miss
this.
you, we want you back.
But I'm just saying that
Reason it went up
other
is we
towns
lost
pay
our best
more, so
moderator.
we're not getting that bad of a deal here.
It's tough, yeah, I mean,
Rate is
that's,
gonna be a
that's
big
why
drop.
when,
Yeah.
if you go to, our moderator is now being
Compensated.
compensated for what they're actually doing.
Right.
And we've eliminated, I think, we had talked to Dan a lot about this. We eliminated absentee ballot counting for our referendum because there's so few, and it's just central counted right there. So our moderator does get a slight bump for having to also deal with that paperwork and watch what's happening there.
Thank you.
and we've combined some places too, like the elections this year, we didn't have any ballot clerks. We had our person doing voter checklist check and be the ballot clerks. Through all of early voting, Marie and I, or our deputies, were the moderators all the time. We did not hire anyone in those positions.
And I hate to keep, harping on the state of Connecticut, but they did last year give us new tabulators, And part of the maintenance agreement of those tabulators was considerably higher than what we were paying for the maintenance on the old tabulators. And we didn't have a choice in that. They gifted them to us.
So as early voting is becoming the norm and we're trying to get the kinks worked out, do you find that, do you need everybody on a municipal election when turnout's about, I don't know, 6,000 people versus a presidential when turnout's like 15,000?
No.
Are you
But-
asking for early voting specifically?
I guess, well, actually, just in general, the elections, I mean, because obviously this coming year is going to be a gubernatorial election, so turnout should be more, not quite a presidential, but more than municipal. So do you vary it year to year based on the election at all, or do you need more people for more elections?
Some positions we have to have by law. They have to be in there. We ended up through early voting in this last municipal, just taking SDR out, and if somebody needed it, we did it ourselves. That would not work well during a presidential year, because we tried that, and we could barely get out of the office because so many
Yeah.
people were coming in that day.
So for this budget, this is a much more accurate depiction of where the money is going.
Actually going.
So, so some lines are up and some lines are down.
But I also would think it's hard to tell on that question, Michael, because we could expect nobody to show up and then every voter in Southbury could show up. Now, historically, maybe not, but it's hard to say.
But I mean, municipal tends to get about 40% turnout, give or take. A presidential, 85%, give or take. A gubernatorial, 75%, give or take. I mean, these are pretty tried and true methods. The difficulty is early voting is still so new that we don't know what the norm is because we only have one presidential and one municipal, and who knows if that's going to stay. And plus, I don't know if the state is still going to maintain the same requirements for early voting. But
I would think this budget referendum, we're gonna have a big turnout based on the schools and the new schools, so we're gonna have probably a larger turnout.
Okay, so you're saying that so what I'm pondering is the 27 versus 44, like, so on operating, so there's, if we, yeah, like, yes. Well, go back, okay. If you could just explain it to me at a high level, I mean, that seems to imply, yes, you anticipate to pay more this year than you did last year, right? Because you said 44, we're getting to 27 this year, right? But you're closer to the 44 in your estimate for next year.
Yeah, I think in this case, if you look, Tom, the year-to-date actual, when we put this together when we updated it in February, was 30, but when we built the budget, it was November. So we have to update the estimated, it's probably gonna go up. It's probably not 24, it's probably gonna be a little bit higher than that, because right now we're at 30, and we still have the May referendum, so the May referendum
So you
will
just
probably
think
be
that
around-
the 27 isn't really very accurate?
Yeah, no, it's probably gonna be closer to 39, because the May referendum will be
Okay.
about 8,
All right,
based
then
on
that makes more
historical.
sense to me, okay,
So I think that number will have to adjust as we
okay.
go back tonight, we'll fix it.
can I ask a question? If the May referendum were to fail and there has to be another referendum, that's something that you can't really account for, right?
Do you want to?
The region,
Yes.
if the region fails, they pay for their referendum,
Okay.
and they split the regular vote with us. But yeah, if it fails, it is on us too. If the town does fail, it is on us too.
So if the town budget fails, it's on ours. If
Yes.
it's simply,
If it's simply the region will reimburse us.
okay.
Thank you. Betsy, 05, if you don't mind, I just had a quick question, so, yeah. When you're looking at quantity for things like absentee checkers, early voting, et cetera, am I correct in assuming that's hours? Is that hours that are being calculated under quantity for some of those?
Yes.
And so I'm just curious what the methodology is when you see, is it just based on experience? Is there a baseline? Are you saying, well, we know we're gonna have at least one referendum and a general election this year, so we know how many hours versus last year? So just looking at the 1409, then 804, and now it's up to 1694. Just curious about how those hours are estimated.
Do you want to pick a line and I can go through it, or do you want me
Yeah,
to?
well, I just mean, well, this year, right? Early voting, so the quantity, 1694. Like I said, I assume that's hours. I'm just curious how that, what the methodology is.
So for a primary, there's 7 days of early voting. The Tuesday, Thursday are the long days, so those are 13-hour days. So we'll add those days, like those hours, and then we'll take the hours from 9:30 until 6:30, because that's the average of when the poll worker is there.
Okay.
We'll add that for the other 5, take that per poll worker per day. So when we do a general, it's 14 days of early voting with 2 long days. So we take all of those hours, so per position, we add all of that up, and the number comes out to, I think it's over 1,000. It's almost 1,700.
Yeah, well, that's what was my question,
Yeah.
that nobody can look at that number and say, geez, where is the registrar's office coming up with this? It literally just is a formula
Yeah,
based
and I
on a
can
number
do
of
the math
people,
if you-
number of days, number of hours, and that's it.
Exactly.
There's no
So
way around that.
we can do the math right here if you'd like me to.
Oh, no. I think anyone looking at that might see last year, look at this year, go, wow, that's almost double. And it's
Off
like,
the top
look,
of your head without
the
a
number of
pencil.
days and the number of hours are what they are.
They
That's the
are.
number.
Right.
Okay.
We need a certain number of positions to fill the room. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know how the primary's going to go, but that's going to be separate tables for Republicans, separate tables for Democrats.
But
So-
all in one place, run at the same time.
Yeah, So we'll be in the same location, but we'll have
We'll need-
specific poll
And
workers
we
for each.
didn't have one this year, so we need the early voting and the election day for that.
All right. Thank you.
And you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Matthew, would you like to come up? Right next to Mr. Michaels. So I just want to introduce everyone to Matthew Zinzi. He's our new IT director. Now, Matthew has the pleasure of starting, was it last week, Matthew?
Yeah.
Last week. So he didn't build his budget, so any questions that you have, we'll try and answer them as best we can, or I'll answer them, but Matthew inherited this one, so. So, some of the things that are in this budget, we're gonna be working to see, do we really need it, do we not need it? And Matthew's gonna be working on that, so next year, we'll may get a different IT budget. But this is based on a lot of contractual stuff we had with a lot of our vendors, and the phones is pretty set, what we spend for the phones each month. So most of the stuff is pretty straightforward. Salaries, the software support, or all of the software that we have here, like the assessor software, the tax software, the accounting software. As we go down.
What's driving the increase in telephones?
Well, the increase in telephones, if we went through last year's budget, as we started to do the budget, we knew the budget itself was low, but we were expecting a $25,000 credit on our Frontier bill. When we actually looked into that, the credit was actually closer to $10,000. So the budget last year was actually too low. So this year, we've reflected the correct telephone budget based on what we have. So we have, for example, we have fiber lines. We have, 8 fiber lines for our emergency services towers, and we have the voice over IP here. We have some AT&T wireless bills that are in there. We have the tracker on all of our GPS tracker on all of our vehicles. So the number that's in there for telephones is pretty accurate to what we're going to spend this year. And unfortunately, last year and the year before, we were low in the
So are we
budget.
looking for a big transfer? Is that what we're going to see sometime, at some point with that?
No, I think we're going to be able to mitigate it within the budget this year. So we will do a transfer, but it'll be within this line. So within one of these lines here.
Is that because we went without an IT director salary? Where can we mitigate that?
The IT director's new salary, we're gonna take out of salary adjustments. We have a line in labor for that, and there's money in there to take care of that.
Got it.
Dan, just one question. Are we still on the IT end doing the spam and phishing tests?
We are,
we
John,
had
and,
done
yeah,
before.
we're doing spam, we're doing phishing, we're doing all those tests, and we are doing training. And, yeah, we're doing a lot of stuff, like we have multi-factor, where, a lot of the things we had to get to maintain our cyber insurance. So, there's a lot of things, like that to protect the whole infrastructure here. Plus, we made an effort, at least from the financial standpoint, that all of our financial packages are in the cloud. So our assessor, tax, and finance packages are all up in the cloud now. So it's a little more secure up there. So we're not worried about someone hacking into a server here. Unfortunately, the police have to be networked here, but we're making an effort to move all of our IT operations up into the cloud. And we are one level below the highest level for cybersecurity.
If I might, Tim, could you have your new director give us a little bit CV so we know who we're dealing with? Please, thank you.
Absolutely. My name is Matthew Zinzi. I started last week, as Dan mentioned. For the previous 20 years, I worked for an IT consulting firm based out of Shelton, Connecticut. We worked with organizations of all sizes, but me specifically, I concentrated on working with municipalities, healthcare organizations, school systems. So especially over the last 10 years, I was pretty much dedicated to municipal IT. So I come here knowing all of the software packages, all of the various systems, especially on the public safety side, which is very unique and challenging when it comes to IT. So I think I've really been able to kind of hit the ground running because I've worked with a lot of these companies, a lot of these vendors, a lot of these contacts that the town was already working with, I had worked with in the past. So some of the municipalities were a little larger in size than Southbury, but I think that really gave me some good experience of what, municipalities of different sizes are using and focusing on in IT, and we can bring a lot of that to Southbury. Like Dan mentioned, you're doing a lot of good stuff here security-wise. I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and to make everything a little more efficient. But I think, like I said, we're gonna hit the ground running and look forward. I'm very, very excited to get started. I'm a Southbury resident. I've lived in Southbury for the last 20 years, so very, very excited to be working here and getting going.
Married?
There's something to be said being 5 minutes from home.
Married, is that what you said?
Married?
Yes.
And kids?
4 kids.
Okay, good.
All went through the Southbury school system. My youngest is 11. My oldest is 19. She's in college.
Nice. Well, we're happy to have you. I know
Welcome.
We were out without a IT director since September, so
Yeah.
it's getting a little dicey.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's, a lot of folks will think it's a smaller town, is there a lot going on with IT? And there's more than anyone can imagine. It's every department, every area is completely involved with technology now on municipalities of any size, so.
Yeah, we describe it as though we're running 12 different companies with 12 different cultures and 12 different software
Pretty much.
packages, so.
That's how municipalities are. Every department's a little different with different needs. There are certain things such as security that you focus on for everyone, but each department's a little unique, and a lot of folks in IT don't have that perspective when it comes to a municipality. They're used to one organization, and that's what you focus on. But yeah, like Dan said, each department's different, and especially when you talk about PD and public safety, it can get very unique and complicated from a technology perspective. So yeah, I'm really, really excited to be here and look forward to working with everybody.
Excellent.
Hey, Steve?
Well, Matt, welcome again. I'm happy to have you. I guess maybe this, again, since you inherited this, is maybe Dan. It is a modest increase. I just had a couple, again, quick questions. I apologize if they were already, if I you know, maybe this information should have been known. But in '06, Betsy, where they get into some of the details of the, I mean, I guess they're different software licenses and things like that.
Yep.
I think is it the accounting software on 13, the last couple of years was flat, and now there's kind of a big jump. Was that like a vendor price increase? Did we, you know, add anything to that? Or is it just simply came to the end of, like I said, maybe the contract with the vendor in order to
That's-
renew it?
That's a contract increase. Yeah, and where the software package itself is changed. It used to be a server-based package, now it's a cloud-based package, and some of the modules that we had to get for that just increased the price.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, if maybe some added modules or something like that. So again, if it's contractual, it's kind of hard to get around.
Yeah.
The other question, just curiosity, you know, so I figure I'll ask the expert, right? I forget which line it is, but I think it's Windows 10 Office 2016 training. It's more about, is that what the town is currently using, Windows 10 and Office 2016? And are we concerned about any kind of end of useful life, having to pay for new software upgrades pretty soon?
So, the majority of, the majority of the workstations in town are now running Windows 11. There's
Okay.
a smaller amount that are Windows 10, and it is end of life. You can't get security updates
Right.
for it. So that's one of those sort of top of the line red flag, hey, we got to address this right away. As soon as they came in, it was one of the first things. Dan and I even talked about it before I was hired.
Right.
So yeah, it has to be done, because if there's a workstation that is Windows 10, it can't get security updates and is extremely vulnerable. The good thing is there's a smaller amount of those around the town, which is great, because a lot of organizations are really, really struggling with that. There are some pieces of hardware that can't be upgraded to Windows 11, and they will physically have to be replaced. But again, that number's not large. On the Office side, yeah, the majority is using Office 2016, which is obviously pretty old. Now, we have other Microsoft licensing that gives us newer versions of Office. So that is something I think we're gonna concentrate on, is getting that up to where it needs to be. But yeah, it's 10 years old. It's absolutely out of life. It's still usable, so it's not an emergency on the Microsoft Office end. But that is definitely something we're gonna address, and it should be able to be done, you know, it won't be that big of a lift or that big of a project to get us where we need to be on the Office side.
Okay, and I guess that's kind of where I was going. You know, you feel this is adequate, given some of those things, and even you plan on addressing that this year within this budget. We're not looking at, hey, even though it's a small amount of machines, these licenses aren't cheap, and we have, you know, a big number coming down the road. You feel comfortable?
I feel fine with, on the Windows and Office side of where we are. There's not gonna be a big surprise where we have to say, oh my gosh, we need this number to get us to Windows 11 in the latest version of Office. We're gonna try to phase it, you know, so that we, you know, that's what I'm gonna try to do with everything, whether it's hardware, software, licensing, is not say, well, let's do this for 150 workstations or licenses. You know, let's try to phase things in so that when things need to be renewed, replaced, we all know what that is. You can calculate it 3-5 years out. That's the plan. Everything is definitely on the older side right now. So there's, you know, a lot of stuff's gonna need to be replaced and upgraded. It's just, it is what it is. It was kind of left to, I think, languish a little bit. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna go to Dan and say, we're gonna replace everything in the next 6 months and it's gonna be this astronomical number. It's not the smart way to go, even if we weren't that far behind. It's just not the right thing to do in IT. You do it in smaller chunks so it's manageable over the 3, 5, and 10-year kind of process.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that goes for hardware, software, the licensing, all of it. Some stuff like departmental software, that stuff just is what it is, you know, but on the Microsoft side or some IT management stuff, we have a lot of room there to kind of, you know, do some good things.
Thank you.
Yep.
Jason?
First off, let me join everyone in welcoming you.
Thank you.
Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
On that same tab there, we're looking at some licenses, and this is more just of a curiosity of mine.
Yep.
You know, we're obviously a Microsoft Teams shop. We're doing this meeting on Teams, but there's still a line item for Zoom, I think, for like 12 licenses. Is there a faction of the town still using Zoom, or what's the rationale there?
So that's a good question. I think there's a small amount of Zoom usage for meetings. I haven't come across who is actually using it. Dan, is there a certain department that requires it, or?
No, I think it was when we first went to, during COVID, when
I
we
was gonna
went
say,
to
I
Teams
bet you it
and
was
Zoom. Some
a
departments
residue
were
from
using
COVID.
Zoom, and we tried to get everyone over to Teams because towns were getting Zoom bombed, so we were trying to
Yep.
stay away from it, but I do believe some people still do have some
Yeah.
Zoom licenses. This is one of the things that we're gonna look at with Matt now and figure out, do we need
Yeah.
them, do we not need them? And
Yeah, during COVID, Zoom kind of took over, and a lot of organizations started using Zoom. And then if they wanted to do a meeting with another organization, that organization started using, so it kind of snowballed. Then Microsoft said, well, we've got Teams and we can do the meeting. And then a lot of people started kind of going to that. So there's a lot of that where a lot of places will have both. But that's a lot of what I want to do. There's a lot of overlap in software, in licensing, and all that kind of stuff. We want to get our hands around it and look at it and get more efficient with all of that. And obviously, that'll save money.
And I did just get some information that the library actually uses the Zoom licenses.
Okay. For, like, townspeople to do things, or internally to run
for-
business?
For internally to run business.
And they're watching us?
Wasn't Heather, no.
Maybe.
The finance staff, they are on top of it. They say, who's that really nice man sitting next to you? He's very quiet tonight.
So far.
It's early.
My subject's coming soon.
Anyone else for IT or Matt? Of course, if you guys do have any questions, reach out. We'll answer them as best we can, but reach out to us even after this. We'll figure out how to
Dan,
get the best answer.
just one question on
absolutely,
IT. With elections. Before I moved to Southbury 20 years ago, the town we lived in, you could pay your property taxes online using a 35-cent ACH charge, okay? Are we going in that direction? Because that would get money into the investment account even faster.
We are, John, at some point. I don't think we're there yet because the software we use, Point and Pay, which is kind of most of the municipalities use in Connecticut, they charge that 3% fee. And we're looking at other options, just we haven't found one yet that will work.
Thank you.
But yes, that is something that we are looking at. All right, Matthew, that was pretty easy. Next year, it'll be a
I
little
don't think it'll
different.
be easy next year, but like I said, I'm very happy to be here and start working with everyone, and look forward to it.
Great.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks
Thanks.
for being here, Matt. I know that your wife also volunteers. She's a member of the Park and Rec.
Park and Rec
Commission,
Commission. Yep, my wife Kate. Yeah, so she said, "Who have you met? Who do you know?" So yeah, you know, she loves it and is having a great time. And like I said, we've been here for 20 years, and we absolutely love Southbury and the whole community. So very excited to get going.
So, all right. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Matthew. So next up is Senior Center, and I have to promise the Public Works guys, because they've been up for 36 hours now, that we're gonna get there quick. So Andrea's budget is up 3.73. The majority of it is in part-time salaries, and when we started looking at the budget, Andrea approached us and said our bus drivers are underpaid in comparison to every town in the area. So we made an adjustment from $20.14 to $21.50, which I believe is below some of the towns, but it's kind of in the comparable area where we're gonna be retaining our drivers and not have them wanna go work at other towns. Any questions for Andrea?
Is that, how much of the 13,000 is that?
all of it,
All of it?
yeah,
That's the only increase?
yeah. Except the activities, senior activities, 4,600.
No, on that one line.
On that one line, that is it, yeah.
Okay.
Is the senior activities like the Parks and Rec in the sense that there's a revenue, a kind of offsetting revenue piece?
There is an offsetting revenue in the seniors, yeah.
And I mean, is it pro rata? I mean, that's the whole point. That was we were debating kind of about last night, is that it,
It's not dollars for dollar, but it's close. It's not completely equal. We have more expenditures than we have revenue in this line,
On the activities.
on the activities line.
Andrea, I know that there's more people at the senior center than there has been in some time, and the membership keeps going up. Do you anticipate that increasing? Is that flatlining, or is it, do you still see a lot more interest?
It's still increasing for sure. Right now, at the end of February, we hit 800. Last year, we ended with 1,083. So trending, we should hit 1,000 by the summer and then go upwards from there.
And, you know, you've been involved with that for a few years. Is there a kind of a strategic plan of where you see the senior center going for like the next 5 years? And I realize that this is an annual budget, but I want to make sure like our departments feel like we're building towards something. So do you guys have like a strategic plan? Have you thought about that? I mean, is this budget kind of putting you in a place where you'd like to be?
Our commission has developed one, and, you know, it's something we think about as we should. I will say we are kind of getting close to maxing out in terms of space. We are lucky to use the Park and Rec side periodically to expand some of our program offerings. We've heard we have parking problems, things like that. So in terms of programming in themselves, we're almost at capacity. Things come and go, trends change, interest change. So if, you know, one exercise goes, we'll try to fill it with another exercise. But at this point, we're more like a maintenance stage, especially for our paid programs. Of course, we always try to find out what topics and free things are trending. But as for our instructors and around exercise, things like that, we're kind of just maintaining, I would say, at this point.
Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. First, looking through you. I don't particularly have any issues with what we're seeing on the screen. One thing I think might be helpful, and it kind of dovetails to Michael's point, at the most recent Board of Selectmen meeting, our board unanimously sent over a positive recommendation to build in another part-timer to cover what we thought was a fix with a floater over at the senior center that since has kind of not taken hold. So as some of you might remember, there was some issues with Friday classes and some later programming during the weekdays to make sure we had senior center staff coverage. Like I said, that floater position didn't work out as it originally intended. And rather than continue to pull the current staff into split shifts and not kind of doing their traditional duties, our board at least thought it made sense to utilize some capital to give them the part-timer that was kind of dedicated to the senior center and maintaining the programs that during the pilot program the town told us we needed. So since the request from our board was specific to balancing out this fiscal year, you know, I think it would be worth the conversation here to, and you know, someone should take note because it's rare I'm going to try to add money back into a budget, but to utilize, even if it's just a placeholder for now, to fund that part-time salaried position for an inside staffer.
And that's not in this, but that's not in this budget?
No, do we just, no,
Okay.
right? No.
Not
no.
up there, no.
I'm sorry, that would be on the budget sheet, Betsy. So that would be in addition to the 13,218, so that doesn't represent,
Does not.
right, so the additional cost for that, what was the additional cost annually for that, the part?
We think about 30,000.
So if that were to be added in, you'd be looking at a change of 43,218, right?
Correct. And again, not my usual go-to MO at these meetings, but I could make a much stronger argument for spending that $30,000 on this position than I could at a 10-hour-a-week economic development director position. I think the town benefits more having someone here than attempting to, Band-Aid economic development.
I guess we're getting into that discussion on that request. I know the Board of Selectmen has sent that back to Board of Finance, so we'll talk about that more, but have you considered leveraging more volunteers from our senior community? Because it sounds like the position is something of a greeter. And I know volunteers are not always reliable and it's not professional, but I mean, I get the sense that that's a community with a lot of time. A lot of them enjoy being at the senior center anyway. They might feel empowered to be like the first weekend or the first week greeter. I don't know. I'm just trying to spitballing a little bit. Have you tried to reach out more for volunteer basis rather than going through a budget process?
We do have some great volunteer opportunities, like our lunch program is fully volunteer. We have people who do our newsletter folding. We have volunteers who do our plans or that run programs, things like that. For this specifically, we do need someone who's a little bit more reliable. We do take in money, we deal with personal information, and we just feel like we need somebody that can handle some of the confidential needs that we have behind the counter. And it is work. We want our volunteer opportunities to be more of a fun, laid back. And we do setup programs, we do decorations, we stand on ladders, we do things like that, which is what I would expect this person to do. So it's just, I feel like it's something that needs to be a paid position.
I agree. I just wanted to throw it out there just as a possibility.
A question, if I might. Is this going to be an additional part-timer, or is it a part-time position turning into a full-time position you're thinking of?
An additional part-timer.
An additional part-timer. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think this will be brought up to the Board of Finance at the next meeting. So
Yeah,
it's kinda off.
since the board has already voted to move it forward to the Board of Finance, I don't think this would be the time to add it here, because we'll add it once it's funded, and then it will be in this year's budget and roll to next year's.
Well, that's, I guess, my point of confusion is if we are funded the next Board of Finance meeting, does that only go through the end of the fiscal year and then it disappears?
No, then we'll bump this budget up, so the net effect on the budget will be zero, because we'll transfer in enough money to cover both position this year and next year.
Dan, so is that just another way of saying we can come back here in a few weeks, pull up this same spreadsheet and salaries part-time for 25, 26 under that amended, let's say that's approved,
We'll go
that
up
amended
30.
line you would see
Well, it's not
go
gonna
up.
30.
Yeah.
And then
And
department
then
request
department
would go up
request.
accordingly,
same.
right?
Yep.
So the spreadsheet would still show the 13,000, et cetera, but the totals would all be,
The totals would be different, yes.
Anyone else, any questions? That was an easy one, thank you.
All right.
All right, thanks, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom and Matt?
We got Public Works next, and Matt and Tom both look like they're ready to fall asleep. These poor guys, been putting
Yeah.
in some hours plowing.
You need coffee or, yeah. So Tom, thanks a lot for you guys and the crew, another amazing job cleaning what was impossible, so the guys always do a great job, so another great job this time.
Thank you. The guys have been awesome. Sorry. Yeah, the guys have been awesome, a lot of hours, but they're doing a great job. And I know everyone knows we have a salt issue. They've been fighting through it, using what we have. We went back to a salt sand mix. It's a little different than everyone's used to, but it has been working, and we got a little salt today, so we're feeling like maybe we're making the turn.
And that's the one thing that I wanted to point out. We have a salt budget. We're fully funded. We've issued purchase orders. Unfortunately, it's not that we didn't order it or didn't get it. We just can't get it because the state is not releasing it to everyone wants it. So, Tom and the team have been doing a great job, and Matt, of making sure we get enough to at least mix it with some sand to keep it going as much as we can. But it's not for lack of not having the budget and not approving it, we just can't get it.
And that's that way for all the municipalities. Everybody has trouble getting it. I guess stuck out in the ocean, the barge, for a long time.
So we want to do highway first? Tom, you want to do highway?
Sure.
Highway budget, which is one of our largest budgets, an increase of only 0.82, so relatively flat this year.
Correct, and it's mostly contractual.
And most of it is contractual raises, which we have a contract of 2.5. This year, it's 2.3 or 2.5. Last year's 2.3, I think. So we're in the last year of the contract, 27, so it's 2.3.
Go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Versa. Thanks again, guys, for everything. I'll echo everyone had just said. A couple questions here in highway. First question, here in our salary offices, we have a line item for director. And maybe it's not your guys' answer to answer this. Is the intent to fill that position? Because I'd, right, wrong, or indifferent, kind of heard different arguments there. So I just want to make sure that if we are, perfect. If we're not, are we reallocating that money to somewhere, or what is the intention, or do we not know yet?
So, Jason, what we're doing is we're giving it a month to figure out what the needs are there, because if we look at it from the standpoint of are things getting done, I think Matt and Tom and Al, who are running the core departments for Public Works, are doing a really good job doing that. So when our former Public Works director was here, he once said that, you know, he's developed this where the point you don't need a Public Works director any longer, but we're still looking at it. It's something we are going to give it a little bit of time to see how these guys feel about it, and then see if we need it or not. And then if we don't, that money will be reallocated.
And what was the turnaround, what's the turnaround time in getting a public works director if we decide? I mean, like, what was like last, we've done it, we have enough practice with it. What's the?
Last time it was quick because Blake was already here.
Oh, right.
The time before, it wasn't really that long. If we look at our salaries and benefits, where for salary-wise, we're trending on the higher side for a lot of towns of our size, so I don't think we'd have an issue if we wanted to go out and get someone.
So you don't think once we decide there'll be a delay anyway, right? Like,
There will always be a delay between the time we post and the board approving the job description, getting someone in, and then getting someone on board and getting them approved by the board. So, either way, I think most of our hiring process takes about a month.
Okay, but not 6 months?
Not 6 months, no.
Okay.
All right, and to continue on, my second question, within this budget, involves rental equipment. And I think you guys explained it to me last year, but my memory isn't what it used to be. So right now, it looks like we are, that's okay, I got it here in front of me too. Budgeted 58 grand, a lot of that's the crusher. So far, we're at 19.5, if those numbers are up to date. Do we think we're gonna fill in that gap, or we've just not needed as much rental equipment as we thought?
We were hoping to rent the crusher for another 2 weeks. That is the hope this spring. Weather has not been our friend, and that slowed us down on some of the other rental equipment. The line, when it says rental equipment, that kind of a weird word. That's us hiring contractors for stuff more so than rental equipment.
Sure.
So if we hire someone for a small pipe job or something like that, it would come out of that line.
Yeah, we have a heavy equipment line, which is probably the guys that we outsource to, and then we have the crusher, which is a separate line.
Yep.
So if we wake up tomorrow and it's 60 degrees and it stays that for a while, and we have the opportunity to rent the crusher for the 2 weeks you're hoping for, does that zero us out to that number, or we're still going to be a little shy of it?
I believe Matt can speak to more. We were going to use some more on.
I think the last crusher rental was about $20,000, so that would be another 20, and then the remainder would just be spring, smaller projects.
And the stuff we get from the crusher, we use that in our road projects, correct, or?
Correct. We reuse that product. It's a recycling process that we recycle it, and then we use it to backfill all our drainage jobs with. It stops us from going to O&G and buying as much product.
In understanding that a lot of this is weather dependent, does that kind of explain some of, if we're in the historical tab now, on that same light item, the general difference between the budgeted amount and the actual amount? A couple years you hit it dead on, and that's perfect. Others, there's, $24,000, $55,000 deltas. I know it's not a perfect science, but is there any?
You can look into flood took away from us.
I figured the
tornado
flood
took
year was
away
that one
from
giant
us,
one, but
and
even
it's-
some of the others.
It's sometimes 2 years. We're still catching up from the flood. So it should come back into line probably, I think this year, we should come back into line. But it does take us a while, like after the flood, we were working under FEMA, and we weren't really using our operating budget during that time.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask a general question? Are all the lights, traffic lights LED now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
No one's been able to answer that question. Thank you.
Definitely are, and they say they last about 10 years, and we rotate through them at about 8 years, rotating through Main Street, replacing them.
So are we on,
We just, on a program, we kind of do an intersection every year and then work our way through, so that we're
Okay.
kind of just rotating the lights out.
all right, thanks.
Gentlemen, I guess a clarifying question maybe, similar to one I asked a different department. Obviously, you look at this sheet and the big driver is the overtime. And if you look at the historical, it's tricky. It's storm dependent or other, natural disasters, different things happening. If you look at Betsy 0004, for the salaries overtime. Now, again, the quantity, I assume, are hours, estimated hours that are
Correct.
going to have to be on these various things. What, on winter storms, we all understand what that is all too well. What would fall under miscellaneous construction season? And I see this year you're estimating those hours to increase. I'm just wondering what's driving that.
Winter storms, self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Miscellaneous is call-ins that we get through the year, trees down, somebody calls in something on the side of the road needs to be picked up, or debris. That's miscellaneous. Construction season is when we run over, working on pipe jobs or doing any work, maintenance work that comes out. The storms that come along will come out of construction season, and drainage is just drainage jobs. We work quite a bit on just replacing pipe along town, and that comes out of that line.
Just, I see that the estimated expenditures for this year is expected to hit the budget.
We've far exceeded it. With
That's what I
this-
was-
with
my
this
next
one,
question.
So we haven't
Okay.
updated it, but with today's payroll, that's actually gonna hit tomorrow. We're actually closer to 175, 180 right now, so.
Okay. So leading to the estimated increase in hours for the upcoming
Yes.
fiscal year. There you go. Thank you.
So I get this question a lot from people, and I said I would ask, what's the deal with River Road at the moment? Do we feel good about the status of the repairs? Do we need more maintenance there?
Currently, we're evaluating our options for River Road. The work that we and Stone Construction did a couple of years ago was very solid and very sound. It's not necessarily the end game or a permanent solution there. So currently, our plan is to, as we can each year, put a little more into it with that same kind of scope that we did with Stone.
Is there a timeline, though, for when it can be the end game?
Since the end game is a rather large number. I'm not sure if there's specifically a timeline for we're going to be done by this point. It's a continuing issue.
The
as
large
well.
number doesn't scare me. It's the deferring and kicking the can down the road that does.
No, it's definitely on the radar, and we are working with Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments and looking to obtain some funding for that project through LoCIP. So we have been in contact with them, and that conversation has come up. So.
Let me add a little historical perspective from a finance board standpoint. When we chose the repair plan that was implemented 2 years ago, there was the understanding that there was going to be an annual maintenance, not insignificant. The number I think was $50,000 to $100,000 required on an annual basis to continue to keep River Road in a fully functioning manner. There are several problem areas along River Road that were not part of that original remediation that are kind of also part of that $50,000 to $100,000. You know, Public Works did an amazing job at bringing River Road back into a fully functioning byway. We've kind of forgotten the fact that we'd also signed up that there was going to be a $50,000 to $100,000 annual repair cost, repair and maintenance cost, removal of trees on the downslope, continuing improvement of the drainage. The guys are trying to find, there's where the algae ponds are, further north on River Road above where the failures were. The guys are trying to find pipes that are supposedly there, but they haven't been able to find pipes that would equalize water levels between the river and the ponds. So there's always been an expectation that there would be an annual expenditure until or unless we decided to take on the bigger bite of a more complete reconstruction of the entire road all the way up to Mitchell Farm.
Any other highway? All right. What's next? Transfer station? No? I think transfer station. I think because everyone had questions on hauling and rates and things like that, so that's So transfer station actually went down. This year's budget is down 8.34%. You know, the salaries, this is one of our collective bargaining units, so the salaries are actually the raises are in the budget at 2.5% or 2.3, except some of the supervisors get a little bit higher, so it averages 2.57. But hauling and recycling and demo hauling and regular hauling are all down, and that's based on historical, when we looked at it, that you can see the actual tonnage going down. And that's, Matt can.
Well, I don't know, is the tonnage going down?
Yes, most definitely. The most marked decreases in demo hauling, as you see. That's because primarily at this time last year, we were taking demo for free after the flood for the first 6 or 8 months after the flood. So obviously, once we started charging for that again, demo went way down. Single stream recycling and MSW have gone down slightly, not as much. I'm attributing this to the permits that we started issuing July 1st. All our permits are numbered now, so we can keep better track of who's using the transfer station and making sure that everyone that uses it is a resident.
I know you sent it to me, Matt, but I'm sorry I don't have it here, but how many residents actually got stickers this year?
As of the end of January, we had issued 6,017 permits. That's 4,352 households, which is about 54% of households in town.
So is this, what's this show?
This is actually from Matt. This is the tonnage, Tom. I
Okay.
sent you something in a different format, but this is the tonnage numbers.
Okay, because the thing that you sent me, which was more summary, didn't seem
Yeah.
to show the tonnage go down very much.
So it went from 2490, 2495, but if you look at the demo, it went from 1430 to
Well,
907.
I get the demo, we charge. And gee golly whiz, of course, we charge and then it goes
But
down.
the MSW hauling is going to be down just slightly, and that's why that line only went down. I think it was $5,000 we went down.
Mhm. Yeah, well, again, I guess we had this debate last time about, and what we should project for next year, right? And so it seemed like that it came down, I mean, given again, the estimated for this year was below your estimate. Is that not true, right? And so what, for next year, are you using this year's revised one as kind of your estimate or on the tonnage?
Yeah, I would expect next year's tonnage to be pretty comparable to this year since we've been issuing the permits since July 1st. I don't expect too much to change there, like a sudden influx or decrease of people
Okay.
using the transfer
One thing that
station.
we want to make everyone aware of is next year, not next year's budget, but the following fiscal year, 27, 28, I believe one of our contracts is up, and we're probably going to experience a big bump up in that, and that's the person that takes the stuff too.
Tipping fee.
The tipping fee.
Mhm.
So that we RP'd that 3 years ago, it's up, 27 is the last year of that, so as we build our 28 budget, you're probably going to see an increase in some of these lines because of that.
Yeah. And you sent me something that said had revenue piece to it.
Yep.
Yeah,
There it is.
right. So I guess I didn't understand quite why the revenue piece seems to be going down on the recycling on that part.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but I believe the recycling revenue part is just scrap metal?
Just scrap metal.
Okay. I haven't compared scrap metal year over year to see if we're taking less, but given those numbers, I would just
I
assume
believe
that
we
we're-
did a strategy, was it last year, that someone else is handling some of the scrap metal for us?
Mhm.
So we're not getting as reimbursed quite as much as we used to. And what happened was their fee went down to offset the portion that they take.
And is the so, the expenditures on recycling seem to be kind of consistently going, I don't know what this year's gonna do, but, the trend is obviously up. I mean, I guess we pay more for recycling now essentially than we do for trash, right?
Mhm, correct.
And so we don't really, so if this is really, we don't really get revenue out of it, right? I don't know, so the revenue really
It's
is.
de minimis.
Which all just kind of like, again, perplexes me that we end up, one would think that there was revenue in recycling, right? Somewhere.
If we took the bottles and cans at our transfer station, there would be revenue in that. And there is revenue. There's revenue in like textiles, and there's revenue.
Well, I mean, we've seen other places, if you unbundled the streams, right?
Yeah,
There's revenue in cardboard.
Yeah.
And
used to be.
Yeah.
But glass is another one, like we were
Yeah.
gonna get a glass container.
Right.
Because one of the heaviest things that go into our trash is wine bottles, and they're not recyclable. So we're trying to get a glass container, maybe someone could, we were working out, I don't know where that stands, but I think someone was gonna do a glass container for us. We just don't have a transfer station only has a limited amount of space.
Well, and I get, and the biggest part of our fee here is the hauling part, right? And I'm told that we're kind of locked into a hauling thing because of the size of our bin and because of the magnitude of what we do, right? Is there any kind of alternatives that you've thought about for, for the recycling piece?
Well, just to be clear, sometimes the hauling part is the most expensive. Our tipping fee for recyclables varies by quarter, depending on the market. Sometimes it's as low as, say, $40 or $50 a ton. Sometimes it's as high as $99. So it varies whether hauling is actually the larger part of that. But yes, because of the size of the containers that we use for recycling being much smaller than the trailers that we use for MSW, that's why we pay a higher rate to haul those. Currently, I'm not sure if this is really a budget discussion, but part of the retaining wall reconstruction at the transfer station is to accommodate 2 open-top trailers, full-size trailers like the MSW ones we have. So once that happens, we could potentially switch to one of those trailers being recycling and one being MSW, so larger capacity in those trailers would theoretically reduce our hauling rate for recycling.
Okay. And then I guess my, is the food scraps piece in this budget or not?
It is not in the budget right now. Since Sustainable Southbury is currently funding it, I believe they told us that they only have a couple more months of funding on that, but it's not shown in there right now. I didn't include it just because I didn't think it was my place to say we're not going to do food scraps or we're going to just put it all into MSW.
Okay. Can we at least see an estimate with that? Because
We can
because,
put-
I mean,
We can put one together. And what do you think, Matt? Do you have an idea of the tonnage for food scraps?
They've taken about 45 tons in a year, which would be about $6,000.
So an additional 6,000.
right, so I mean, one way or another, if we got rid of the food scraps thing, we'd go back into the trash apparently, right? And
Yeah.
so we'd have to up the waste estimate or, maybe take over the food scraps, right?
I know, Tom, we were talking, and this is not really on topic for this budget, but we were talking with Chuck about having a system up there for food scraps, and I think we're looking for a grant, and
Yeah,
we'll see
well-
where that goes.
Yeah, well, I mean, the goal would be, the kind of Sustainable Southbury goal would be to put, like a food scrap processing machine up there, then you wouldn't have to haul it. And then, ideally, besides the kind of maintenance costs, that then you get a kind of bigger benefit from taking the food scraps out of the solid waste
Yep.
and financial benefit, right? But it's a kind of capital cost then, and we're looking for grants to do that, right? I don't know, this is a whole different topic, but, again, somebody'd have to go and talk to Sustainable Southbury about whether they want to try to pay for this for another year or not. That's a whole sort of separate kind of topic, and maybe they can find a grant or something to do that. I don't know. We'll see. But one way or the other, well, if that happens, then again, it stays out. But but you can either, if you haul the food scraps, or if you don't haul the food scraps and nobody pays for it, then one way or another, that weight goes back into the mean solid waste, right?
Unless we can find a couple of local farmers that want to take the scraps off our hands.
Yeah, well, knock yourself out. I've heard that story. But, okay.
Dan, a question on the recyclable end. With single stream, I understand that there are certain types of plastics that you can use and certain you can't, okay? And when we ship out to the recycling center things that are not recyclable, obviously, we don't get anything for them, and we are paying for the transportation. And I've lived in South Prairie for 20-something years, and I've never gotten any information from the town about, on single stream, what should go in there and what shouldn't go in there. I'm just asking the question, if we try to educate people, can we save a couple of bucks?
It would, I think our recycling is pretty high quality as it is. We visited the facility in Shelton where our recycling goes, and they commented that out of the towns in the greater Bridgeport recycling interlocal committee, we're one of the best in terms of cleanliness and how much of our recycling is actually recyclable. The way our contract works with the greater Bridgeport is we would only see a reduction in the tipping fee if all the towns chipped in and did the same thing, promoting, you know, what's in and what's out to their residents. Unfortunately, if we have the cleanest recyclables out of all 19 towns and cities in there, we're going to be paying the same as a larger city that has a lot more mixed in.
Thank you.
I think when you guys took a tour down there, it was pretty obvious that some of the cities and towns do not have the same cleanliness record that we have.
Out of curiosity, is that a standard for all recyclable? I mean, that could be like a statewide initiative as far as education, if it's going to be affecting all towns. I'm just not curious if that one facility is different than, say, a facility in Hartford or a facility in New London.
They are all supposed to be the same. There's a state-run website called Recycle CT, where you can go and type in any item and see, does it go in recycling or trash? And that's supposed to be uniform with all recycling facilities. I haven't heard any issues from Oak Ridge and Shelton that any of the information on there is wrong.
Matt, you very patiently walked me through the hauling conversation last year, and I appreciate that, and I'm going to force you to do it again, I think. So Tom touched on a couple things that I was going to bring up, but your budget is one of the things I really appreciate about math, right? So, you know, Dan started off talking about how it's a roughly an $80,000 decrease budget over budget, and that's 100% true. It's also about 110% or $110,000 increase over at least what the estimated expenditures are today, assuming those numbers are accurate. So that works out to about 12%. So we're clearly trying to make efforts to trim some of those costs, which I appreciate, you know, piggybacking off the conversation from last year. But I wonder if we could still do some work. Digging back into the top level numbers for hauling over the past 4 years, the averages of expended money has been about $261,000. For this next budget, you're going to look for $313,000. That's a difference of about $52,000. For the recycle, the average was about $124,000. You're asking for $143,000. That's called another $19,000. Demo's a little bit weird because I don't have a 2-year average there, and this is much closer to being on the number. It's a 97 average and 105 asks, so it's only less than 10. That I can live with. But the delta for the first two averaging almost $80,000 over that time span. And I know we never want to short you guys or run into a problem, but it seems that even with the cuts you're making here, it looks like there's still opportunities to find more. Am I just dead wrong in that sentiment?
No, I would agree with that in general. I was hesitant to really reduce it any more than this.
Don't be hesitant, Matt. Go for the gusto.
I think we've got 2 years previous to this of pretty good data where our MSW numbers and recycling numbers are pretty consistent. If those hold true through the rest of this year, then I think we can get a little closer to an actual number on MSW and hauling next year. But this is as far as I was comfortable going with it this year.
Because, Betsy, can you pull up the historical real quick? I'm not doubting you, and I know you're trying, so I don't want you to take this the wrong way. And I know you haven't slept in a week. If we roll down a little bit, so we got 2025 there, and we'll just talk hauling for now. You know, the budget call it 3, came in at 254, so that's a delta of 44. The next year, the story seems to be the same. 300 hit 230, that was 70 grand. So there's obviously pretty good variations in there. And like I said, I never want you to short yourselves or deprive the town of services they need, but, the more we roll back, it's a similar story. Sometimes better, sometimes worse. Like, I don't even know what happened there, but I'm not gonna ask you to explain that. But, yeah, and we actually had some changes throughout the years, but, the past 2 years, we're past that threshold. So, there's money in them Dar Hills right there.
The one question I would only ask is, when we were hauling and charging the stuff from the storm to FEMA, would that have had an impact on what we have in these numbers here?
Certainly in the demo numbers, I'm not sure if it would impact MSW or single stream as much. But Jason, to your point, yes, I'm just reluctant to decide based on 2 years of data whether we can, bring this all the way down to what it looks like historically has been used. That's how
I'll
I
meet you in
fix
the
this
middle.
budget.
I'm more, like I said, I don't want to cut legs out from underneath you.
What's the downside of underestimating? If we have to get a transfer then or something? or-
Running a surplus, in my opinion, is not so bad when it's not excessive, and I don't feel that some of these lines are excessive given the size of the budget. Because we forget, that surplus rolls back to the taxpayers in the unassigned fund balance calculation that we do every year. So budgeting's not an exact
Other things
science.
being equal, you'd rather be over than under, you're saying?
I would rather be a little over than under, yes. Because to go back and get a transfer,
Yeah.
and it's since we are paying it back anyway, we're rolling it to the unassigned.
I think I agree to that philosophy to a point. I think the numbers we just looked at are past, we're not, I didn't care about demo because that was $8 grand, fine. But,
Yeah,
52 grand.
But
in this case, I'm kind of agreeing with Jason
But
in the
no,
sense
but-
that
That scares me a little, Tom.
I know.
I do agree with you guys, but I agree with Matt. We have 2 years of data. Matt feels more comfortable with 3. And historically, we let our department heads have that, so can we wait a third year? The budget's being reduced this year, and we'll have numbers next year. So
Yeah,
I don't know if I feel 100%
I guess I'm happy with
comfortable.
that, as that I just really, and again, I'd like to put as much pressure, that's why we're talking about the pay to throw and other things, right? Put as much pressure, even if we don't do the pay to throw, to monitoring, to trying to, get the populace at large, the idea to reduce the MSW, I just feel like we haven't done as much of a publicity campaign about that as we might. And yeah, the tighter that we make this, the more pressure you put on that a little bit, I think,
And I think that's fair, and I appreciate Stan's perspective, but I kind of feel like we left this conversation last year with, well, we'll just give it one more year and see how it works out. And it's been a year now.
And we left last year with the idea that last year was kind of skewed by, the flood and everything. So even if it was skewed, it still came in, kind of reasonable, right?
Can I offer something? Certainly, the Board of Finance's position has been, before we change any methodologies, we ought to have a decent track record. On Jason's side, though, and especially because right now we're looking at more than a 4% increase in cost of local government, maybe this year, and this is for the Board of Selectmen to decide, maybe this year is the year we ask Matt to say, okay, if it continues the way we think it is, let's pull the trigger now on the estimate and not wait to confirm that, because we have an extra pressure this year. So there's a knowing to the, quote, what's at risk if you get it wrong, knowing, I don't know how much you could get it wrong by, 5, 10, 20, $50,000. It depends how much you change the estimate. We do have a contingency, and we certainly have a general fund if there's some kind of crazy emergency. But from my perspective as a Board of Finance member, maybe this year is the year because of the 4%. Like last year, we did something drastic. We're looking at 5.7. We're still significantly over the inflation running number average, was it 3.3, I think? Well, that's the Board of Selectmen, that's
I
one.
think you were putting a finer point on what I was trying to
I
say, so
agree
thank you,
with-
John.
I agree with you, John, in point, but if we reduce this line by $24,000, the budget increase goes from 4.05 to 4.03. For a 0.02 decrease, do we want to let Matt have a year, have real numbers next year and get a true estimate of what it's at, rather than potentially running this line over? We don't know. If we were going to make a significant cut, let's say $100,000, and it's going to have a significant impact on this number, yes. But
What are we looking at, Matt? If we continue the way you think it is, will continue, but you want to wait. If we did make that adjustment this year, what are we looking at in dollars? About ballpark?
MSW probably 15, 20,000.
$20,000?
Yeah.
Okay, not a lot. Okay, thank you.
But we've said that with every line item. You know, how many times can we say, well, it's only 1/10% here, it's only 0.5% here, it's only 2% here? Eventually, all those percentages become a bigger percentage. So if we attack every line item with saying, it's not worth our time, I think we do everybody a disservice.
I would disagree with you, Jason. We do look at every line item when we build this budget that way. And I also know that historically, we let our department heads give us what they think they need. And if Matt is saying we need another year, then I think we should give him the opportunity to have another year.
And I don't disagree with that philosophy, but we've been doing that for the past 4 years, and I just ran through all the averages that we're over. And Matt, at least in the beginning, said, yeah, you're probably right. So, you know, there's a level of frustration that when I and a number of people in this room brought it up last year, we were kind of told, yeah, we're letting things settle, we'll figure it out, let's look at it next year. And, you know, I don't want to have the same conversation next year with, you know, the potential of talking about it again next year. So while I appreciate the argument and understand it's better to be safe than sorry, I don't think sorry is that bad. It's a budget transfer from somewhere else. And no resident is harmed. So I don't see an issue with attempting a cut this year while fully respecting you know, your opinion and perspective, Dan.
I think to Jason's point, there are different bases of our lack of being prescient, knowing exactly what's going to happen. If we were to take all the $20,000 numbers where we feel pretty confident that we're not going to spend it, but we just want to be sure. If we put the basis of those in one category, and well, there's certainly a lot of others we've talked about tonight where, well, we're not so sure. It's just unique and whatever. If you were to separate the two and add up the ones that were, well, we just want to confirm it for another year, that's a different story, because if you had 10 $20,000 numbers, you could get $0.1 So I don't know, we'd ask the fiscal folks to look at these pluses and the minuses, well, excuse me, not the pluses and the minuses. Ask the fiscal folks to look at things where we're maybe being a little too conservative because of a timing difference, and see if they add up to enough to make a deal. On the other side, if we're wrong, the money's going back to the taxpayers in a couple of years anyway, so enough from me.
What's next?
TPO. So TPO, very similar to the other lines, is that top line is contractual salaries. The second line is part-time salaries, and we had a little increase in that, and that's also fluctuation based on the minimum wage, so it's a step increase up in that as well. So that's solely the two increases in that line. Other than, yeah, the other two, one is flat and one is down 1,500. So the two lines that are actually increasing are the salaries and the part-time salaries. One is contractual and one is a compression for minimum wage.
Just because I can't not talk. The only question I have here was about the gas diesel. It seems like the year-to-date actuals kind of tracking less than I thought it would be. Is that?
No, we're quarterly, so we.
Oh, just haven't
we
gotten
put
the
that in
third quarter
quarterly.
yet.
We haven't gotten the quarter in yet.
Thank you.
But it will, because that number is a negotiated rate that we do, so it's a lock-in rate, so we'll be very close to what the number is at the end of the year.
Dan, is that why it's down for the
Yeah, we
percentage change?
We actually negotiated the oil futures market to see where it is and hopefully lock in. Unfortunately, this year I should have waited a day or two, but we still got a better rate than most.
10.2% is pretty, 10.3% is pretty good.
Just, again, you look through some of this, you get curious. If you look at, Betsy, the historical, I was looking at turf management, or pretty close to it. And it looked like FY '25 there, the budgeted amount, we budgeted kind of a big increase over what seemed to be over the last several years, the historical. Year, our current year, it was a little less than the 74, but still a little higher than what we were looking at historically. And we're gonna, it says the jump in '25, we underspent. This year, we're gonna spend right on it. I mean, are we confident in these numbers?
I mean, everything's weather dependent in turf, how much our fields are being used. I think it's a time thing, but that also includes our fertilizer. The big bump one year we switched to, or the decrease, we switched to a combo product, so we were less paying our contractor to apply it for us. So he only had to go out once to get 2 applications down for us. So there was a big drop in that. And then last year we spent more on grass seed. We did a lot more overseeding in the fall, which we're hoping to continue to do. And still do some more renovation projects that we have planned.
So
so
you
we
mentioned, oh, I'm sorry. go ahead.
I'm sorry, we took Siemens Field, and if we do that, we're gonna be spending more money on those fields that are out of service for a season.
Okay. And then you had mentioned sometimes the weather-dependent nature of this, so, you know, it's highly reasonable to.
When I say that, it was more fertilizer and our lime that we're getting out. If
Okay.
we miss an opportunity to apply one of our applications, that's what happens. We're still gonna do all our other projects that we have planned, just some unit down.
Okay, all right, just, you know, I'm just looking at 10 years ago at 33 and change, and last year, or FY '25, 75, this current year, 60-something, so you've seen a 10-year span, you know, it's doubled, and then maybe came down a little bit, but just wondering what's driving some of these increases.
The down was when we went to the combo product.
Well, just to add some further context, I believe it was last year's budget. We removed the Settlers Park line and moved about half of that to turf management and half to operating. So that's really the reason why turf management went up.
Shrunk a little bit, okay.
We used to have someone outsource, maintain the fields at Settlers Park. We stopped that how many years ago? 8. So
9 years ago.
we were keeping that Settlers line, so we figured to better budgetary, we'll put it in the turf management, so it's all in the right line.
Yeah, that was the only one, thank you.
else, TPO? Betsy, can we do TPI? Anyone want to speak for Al? You know, Matt?
We can certainly attempt it.
So TPI is actually down, it's actually really flat, it's .05, down $212. And you guys might remember last year, we did a little change in strategy where we used to outsource a lot of the maintenance and cleaning in town hall, the senior center, where we brought that back in-house. So we have a staff of 4, I believe now, in this line, where we used to just have 1 or 2. And we did reduce operating service contracts, but as you can see, they're going down a little bit again this year.
So net, at least the strategy looks flat or good.
Yeah. Any questions? No?
Are the occupants pleased with the condition of the interior of the facilities?
I think, yeah, I think we're hearing, positive stuff. I can only speak for myself. I can ask around the town hall staff and see.
I mean, that would seem to be an indicator for whether we're doing a good job or could improve or maybe economize.
I can tell you this, it's a lot of work for the small team. And
a lot of buildings.
And a lot of
square
buildings,
feet.
and in particular, this team actually is in the basement of the library, putting up sheetrock and taping and things like that as well. And then on top of that, they're also maintaining the buildings and doing the cleaning and doing the garbage, and so they're doing an amazing job. So at some point, they're really doing an amazing job.
You can add a revenue line for this department. Steve?
I can. So do you guys want to do roads? You have it in you? All right, let's bring up roads. Roads and bridges. Jack is here. Jack can talk roads and bridges. So roads and bridges are actually down a little bit this year, and that's it's an accurate statement, but not because we're down, because some of the stuff is still cleanup from the storm, that we have the FEMA and the debt service money to pay for these roads. So in the road budget, for example, 2 of the roads that are on the budget this year, which would be Chestnut Tree Hill and Old Waterbury Road, are on the FEMA reimbursement. So that's out of the road budget, $750,000 that is coming out, even though it's in the road budget, but it's coming out because we've either got reimbursed from FEMA and it was in the debt service schedule. So the highlighted items are the ones that were in the FEMA reimbursement. We met today with NVCOG. Tim set up a meeting with them today about potentially getting some, lot set money for Main Street South as well.
I will add, there's active conversation going on within the Public Works Department and with the road committee, talking about approaches and priorities for specific projects within the schedule that, not on this sheet, but on other sheets, go out 20 years?
Yeah, 20 years.
I think the numbers here are certainly adequate for next year. The specific projects and the monies allocated to specific projects when you go to 26, 27, and further out are still under development and review, and are likely to change.
And does that show up in any of the capital requests, or how's that show up ultimately, or is just show?
We don't know yet.
We don't, we're still building it out, so we don't know yet. But for this year, the number that's in there is what we will be doing.
Okay, but we're still working on the
It's ordered
future.
on the 20-year.
And this is only one case, but do you guys have any other kind of significant capital request changes? We haven't talked
We
much.
have the bridge reserve as well. We have, and a lot of the bridge or culvert projects are also FEMA reimbursable, but the one big project that we have coming up is the one-lane bridge to two-lane bridge. And what's the schedule for that, Matt? Is it 2027 or 2028?
We're going out to bid this year. In fall of this year, the utilities will start relocating their lines, and major construction will be next construction season.
And that's a
next year.
$8 to $9 million project. That's 100% funded. So we're gonna get 100% reimbursement on that project.
There's been no recent change in the schedule of major projects that I'm aware of, has there?
No,
No surprises, no,
nope,
nobody came and magically replaced a culvert that,
no. I keep hoping for that, though.
No culvert ferries.
if you got a big crane and some big pipe,
If
have
that
at it.
crusher comes through, we can get more of
Missed
that
the
material,
old-
just do it.
And insurance.
I missed is it a budget, is it a culvert or is it a bridge discussion that we used to have every year?
I guess my question though is there any big delta in the capital side?
One capital thing that the highway guys have asked for is 2 lifts. And I think it was about $30,000 and we did move that forward. So it's 2 new lifts up at the town garage.
Okay. Because, well, the capital kind of sneaks into the back door of the budget, right? And so, but that number is controllable and built into the budget
That
appropriately?
is, yes.
Okay.
Any questions, roads, bridges, concerns? Well, thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Good
everything.
job.
Yeah.
I get some sleep.
Get some, I was just about to say.
Thank you, man.
So one thing we talked about last night is going over some of the reserves, so if everyone has it still in, then we can certainly do that.
One other question, do we have a chart that looks at head count historically and
Historical
and
headcount
what's
in
in the budget?
In this budget, we do not, but I could put it together.
I think that would be useful for everyone,
Yeah.
just we've had a lot of individual department conversations, but bringing that together, there's nowhere in the budget something that shows head count.
No,
So as a subsidiary kind of schedule to
Yeah.
see
Yeah, I mean,
what
that
the
was
effect.
that was kind of a useful thing in the police, that they have that.
In the individual budget lines, we do
Kind of
have,
aggregate one.
we do have head count, but you'd have to pull out, I could put it together for everyone as, from department wise.
Would you mind doing that and distributing it?
Not at all.
Thank you, sir.
So John, do you want to talk about reserves or?
Sure. The town, we are one of the few towns in the state that has a 10, 20, 30-year capital replacement plan for virtually all the town's assets. No other town does that. The other towns, the few towns that do it, have a bonding plan for 10 years to figure out how they're going to fund it. We use a reserve fund concept where over the past 50 years, we've been putting money away, earning interest on it, which goes back in to support the general fund while it sits, rather than bonding and having interest to pay. So that's the general concept. We have a bunch of reserves, and you can see them here, and each one of these accounts has a schedule behind it. Let's take a simple one, revaluation. Can we go to the reval, one of them, just so to get the idea? This is in its simplest form. We know that every 10 years, we're going to have to do a full revaluation, $450,000 it costs. So rather than have the budget that year go up $450,000 and then sink the next year, we plan to have enough money in this fund so that when that bill comes due, the money's there. That is, in the simplest form, is the entire concept. We do that for all, we hope, all significant assets of the town. Roofs, vehicles, roads in a little different accounting method, and bridges, a whole list. So let's go back to now, in order to fund any one of these plans, we have to put some money in every year. Eventually, we're going to pay for it. So we have a 20-year, 10, 20, 30-year plan for every category. And we put enough money away each year so that when the bills come due, when the work has to be done, the money's there to do it. The current reserve fund plans call for us needing to put in $51,000 in the revaluation fund. Planning studies, 36. Information technology, 54. We have placeholders for land and farmland and long-term open space, just to remind ourselves that some 20 years ago, the town voted that we should put $0.1 which is about $250,000 today, in the annual budget, put it away. Board of Finance said, no, it's a big story. We don't have to get into that story. It's just very interesting. But it's something that the taxpayers some time ago told us that we should be thinking about. The GIS system, $6,000. Deferred budget support. The Ambulance Association replaces its capital assets, just like we replaced. Both the fire department and the Ambulance Association are 501c3s. For the fire department, because we own those vehicles, all the fire trucks are in the vehicle replacement schedule because they're ours. In simplest form, in the Ambulance Association, they need to replace all their ambulances every 7 years. They got to replace the roof on their building, etc. Rather than send the money over to them every year as an independent organization, which, well, I don't want to editorialize too much on that, to send that much money, $100,000, $200,000 a year over the Ambulance Association, and then have them hold on to it and use it when they need it. Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance has decided, and the Ambulance Association has agreed, and we're in paperwork now, has agreed that the town will keep the money, and when the Ambulance Association needs to replace their assets, they'll come to us, and provided we've agreed, we've vetted their schedule, and we agree with the timing, and they follow all our bidding procedures, it's all done right, we will send the money over there from our accounts. So this is a little unique because to some extent, to a great extent, the ambulance service is totally independent. For the fire department, last year they told us that the NFPA, I don't know what the organization was, set a standard that every fireman would have to have 2 sets of turnout gear, and every 5 years one of them must be new. Well, a set of turnout gear is $7,000. You do that for 60 firemen, that's a lot of money. So the town set up a reserve so that over the next 5 years, we could roll ourselves into meeting that NAFTA standard for our firemen. And that requires $100,000 a year, which is I guess the lion's share of this $358 just for the turnout gear. And then communication systems, there's another sheet for communication systems. So those are the reserve funds themselves. The Board of Selectmen really needs to own and be responsible for, not for the financing component in this financing strategy. That's our responsibility. Board of Selectmen needs to get into, let's go back to the planning studies. Can we go to the planning studies? In the planning studies, we have this particular plan, a zoning, regulations rewrite. We've got this plan, future, I can hardly read it, it's a little too small for my old eyes, but thank you. There's a whole bunch of these things, and you'll see every 5 or 10 years we have them. They're big shots, and they become big money one at a time. So it's up to the Board of Selectmen to tell the Board of Finance through the Finance Department, and the Finance Department and the Planning Department is going to give you guys what you need, guys and gals, excuse me, give you what you need to say, yep, we need 90 for this project, then we need 10,210 for that project, then, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So again, every one of these reserve funds has a backup of a needs schedule that the Board of Selectmen, Finance, and the department work out. And then the Board of Finance works out what the funding concept is going to be. And you'll see here for planning, we have, what's that, $33,000 a year is the increment we need so that we will have enough money in this fund to pay for these things when you need it. You'll see the fund has a lot of money in it now, but we're down to $40,000 in 4 years. So this smoothing this whole thing out is the concept. Betsy, can we go? Let's go to a vehicle replacement or the. Yeah, that's in addition to these quote reserve funds, we have a infrastructure fund, a vehicle replacement fund. There are a couple others.
Click on the plan, I think, tab.
See, now the vehicle replacement. Oh boy. Let's just look at a couple of the current. Now let's bring it way forward, so we can all a little more. Maybe we'll only get the first 5 columns in. Let's see. There you go. A little more to the left. Thank you. So for vehicles, every department, Public Works, Police, et cetera, has a detailed list down here of all the vehicles in their department, just like the Planning Commission had. And every police car, every fire truck, every highway truck, all the trucks are in the vehicle replacement plan. The Board of Selectmen, again, it's your responsibility, and you get each department in the fiscal office to help you do it, has to say that, let's go to Public Works. Let's go behind the Public Works one. Can we go to that one? There we go. Again, okay. Here is every Public Works vehicle. And we have the same thing for the fire department, and et cetera. And we know what's the year, what it is, what's its life, when was it bought, how many it's its life, when are we going to have to replace it, what year, and what might it cost. Every year, the finance department works with the department heads and looks at the next year and the year after to make sure, to be as confident as they can that we're going to have to replace these vehicles. It's going to cost that much money for the next 2 years. Every 3 or 4 years, they do a deep dive into the whole into the whole schedule to make sure we're looking at a total plan. So let's go. Again, we got all these different departments have this schedule that the Board of Selectmen opines to when you say, yeah, this is how much money we need to fund these asset replacements. Let's go back. Okay. Oh, that's, okay.
Police, I think.
Which one is this? This is vehicles.
That's just the budget sheet, but if you,
So when you look at the vehicle replacement plan, we're gonna have, where's the number? Is this, that's the 890 right there?
that's John.
809.
809.
Here is this is the schedule of how much money we start out with, how much money we have to fund in the budget, how much money we're gonna spend in any given year, what, $2.5 million there, $2.5 million there, but only $300,000 that year.
Next year.
We would, if we didn't have this this reserve concept, we'd be bouncing the mill rate around to the extent of millions of dollars every year. So that's why we do it this way.
Or borrowing a lot of money.
Or borrowing, again, according to some plan, and having a debt service. The debt service would be nice and smooth, along with all its interest, and the lack of interest on all the money we're earning on the funds that are here. When, at some point, we're gonna show you the fund balance and how much the income we get on the fund balance through the IPOC fund and the STIF fund that lowers the mill rate because we've got this money. So, so let's go back to, so there's the 890. Okay, let's go back to, let's go to the major, the budget, the whole budget picture, the whole thing, the master budget plan. Okay, and let's go down to the bottom, and you'll see, here we go. Here are all these funds. We have debt service fund, reserve funds, infrastructure fund, vehicle fund, capital fund, all these funds. And here is how much money, remember the 809 we just saw? And the, let's see, there was another, within the reserve funds, they added up to what,
554.
554? So we're putting away $2 million a year in all these funds so that we don't end up bouncing millions and millions of dollars each year. This is how we smooth out all the capital requirements of the town. And again, we're probably the only town, I'm sure we're the only town in the state that does this, because we get lots of questions. How do you guys do that? How are your roads in such great shape? How come you always have all the vehicles? How come you're not in fights with other departments about, are you gonna build a fire engine, or are you gonna fix a road? We don't have to do that, because we've set up over the last many decades this concept. So that's the reserve fund, how it works and how it fits into the budget.
Just curious what your guideline is for making a fund. Like
So-
what, you know, like vehicles are obvious. I mean, is there some, like a threshold for amounts or it's just whatever is a long-term plan?
We are a zero-based budgeting town. We don't work, well, we try not to work backwards from a result. What is the need? And every one of those needs is where it starts. That's your job. Do we need to do this at this time, and this is what it's gonna cost? You guys confirm to us what the needs are. That's your job. And our job is to how are we gonna finance it?
Right, but on occasion, we run into things like, for instance, at the pool, for instance, we never budget, we never put a reserve away for the pool. But once we knew we needed it, we tried to, manage it over a couple of years. I mean, I think the goal always is what John is saying, is to really manage the volatility of the budget, right? To kind of, so that we don't have a big hit. And, I've said to Dan and watching John over the years, he's the wizard of taking something like the flood, right? If you take something like the flood and or something happens, with this kind of system, you can manage what might be a big cost over multiple years, right?
I understand the concept of why we do it, and I think it's a great idea. I'm just curious
Well-
why you would pick vehicles versus, like the pool you said, that we did not budget for the pool. I'm just curious. I'm not criticizing it either way. I
Oh,
just want to know what
yeah.
your guidelines were,
Well,
that's all.
even well, our guideline is to take every asset in the town.
But we
and
didn't
fi-
do it for the pool.
And
But we-
figure
until
out
we-
when it's
until
going to
until
replace.
it
We did
happened.
do it for the pool.
Eventually, but we did, eventually, but we never had it kind of, we didn't have something like the pool sitting there for 50 years, accruing money. We did it once it became apparent.
Well, yes, once it became apparent, we started putting big chunks of money away. There is, as you might imagine, in a concept like this, you can put, you get 35,000 this year. We incremented about, each one of them about 5% more a year. That sort of seems to work. Every once in a while, something's going to happen. And if you're going to get enough money to buy, let's say the fire trucks. We bought $2 million, $4 million worth of fire trucks in the last 3 years. We did not anticipate that in accordance with the rubric I just explained. We do budget conservatively, and every year we know we're not going to have a deficit. We'll probably have a modest 1, 2, 3% surplus. What we'll do is we'll earmark, and you'll see that when we present how we do the mill rate. We, quote, earmark a chunk of each year's, of the cumulative surplus, the undesignated general fund it's called. We'll earmark a piece of that, knowing that in 1, 2, or 3 years, we got this bump coming. And when at a town meeting, it'll all be approved, go through the Board of Selectmen, go through the Board of Finance, go to a town meeting, and we'll explain to the townspeople, well, we had some surplus over the last 2 years. We're gonna earmark $500,000 of it for the price of, and you're gonna see this coming up, for these 2 fire trucks, which in the last 3 years, the prices have gone up $500,000 more than we had anticipated, than we could easily flow. So that is that's the safety valve for this whole concept.
And
I'll be happy to do any other questions on
From an
anything.
investment standpoint, the money that we put away for these reserves sits in a portfolio. So far from July to January of this year, that portfolio has earned $480,000. So that is, in a sense, almost 2 public works trucks.
Right, but the kind of real comparison with that sometimes is that we typically can beat the bonding rate that we would pay in interest, right?
Yeah.
So we can outperform the bonding rate, and we also don't take on the leverage. So if we needed the leverage, we could. Like, when the flood happened, did we ever borrow for the flood or not?
No, well, we did do an IBAN, but what we discovered is because we got AAA right before that, we got an extremely low rate on that, and our stiff rate at the time was 4.5 to 4.7.
Mm-hmm.
So we were paying 2.9 on the debt, but we were earning 4.7 on the cash.
Right. So, I mean, but we always have the option, if we want to, is to go down the bad town route, borrowing a lot. We still have that option, but when we don't, if we avoid taking it, we typically can make money make money in excess of what we'd be paying in interest and stuff, right?
Okay,
I have a question.
Sure.
Not necessarily
Yes.
about the reserves, but when we buy a fire truck, the town owns it.
Yep.
When we buy the ambulance, will the town own it, or will that be?
No, that's, the ambulance association would own it. And we are currently, the ambulance association has agreed with us that because we're going to be buying their assets, that the town should have an appropriate interest in those assets in case something happens with the current 501c3 association. So we're going to be, the taxpayers' money will be protected. So we've worked that out with them, and it's now in the hands of the lawyers to negotiate all the words.
So if the 503,
Disappears and they can't do it, the ambulances are ours.
Okay,
That's the concept,
all right,
okay?
yeah, just saying.
Anything else?
Anything else?
I'd love to talk about this, but you'd rather go home, and so would I.
Keep lowering the lights.
Okay, so I'm done, thank you.
John, just
Yes.
one comparison for this. My wife and I recently moved to Heritage Village, okay? What they do is they fund these types of expenses, not through their tax rate, but they fund it through their monthly fee, okay? And when we bought over there, and we moved in 3 months later after we did some fix-up, I was invited to sit in at some of their finance committee meetings, okay? Instead of having this type of reserve, that they do this, okay? What they have done over a period of time is mostly just take their operating surplus for a year and put it in that fund. They have not hired in years a consultant to do any type of a capital needs replacement study. That replacement study just came in. And what the study says, that they will run out of money for all capital replacements within the next 2 years. Okay? And they will all have to be done by special assessment unless they start to build that fund up. The consultant came in with 2 proposals, how you build it up, one on a partial basis going forward, and one to make sure everything is funded all the way out when we get there. The partial one, if applied, is going to increase the monthly residence fee, the maintenance fee, by about $140 a month. Compare that to what kind of a tax raise could come out at one point if we didn't do this and we had to then raise taxes at that rate in order to do it. So, you know, I'm just giving you a picture of one versus the other. And I've supported, you know, I've been here on this 20 years. I supported John, and this has worked very well for us, okay? And especially since Tom and Dan and the IPOC keep on investing this fund, what it does, it just gives us income and income and income every year, but it does spend and level it out. But the good thing to me as a resident, okay, and the argument I believe John probably made many years ago when he conceived of this, was that in essence, we as residents are getting the benefit of all of this equipment and fixing the roads and everything. We are the one getting the benefit every year and wearing it out. So this way, in other words, what we are doing is by reserving, we are paying for the wear and tear that we put on these things.
One question I have is Monday's meeting is set up for the Health District and the Lake Districts. Does anyone feel the need for them to come in and go over their budgets, or
Well, you said before, like.
not much we can do?
Well, your comment before, I don't know, I felt like we've done things in the past, haven't we? But your comment was like, pretty much we can't do anything.
Yeah, they're districts, so whatever their budget is,
Well, we always at least have they given us audits and they've given us all that kind of?
we have their returns and stuff, so we can have them come in on Monday. And
I don't know. I feel like it's a good rock and roll session.
Okay.
I don't know personally, but
I'll be
that's
here.
it.
Betsy, will you be here? We'll be here. So, all right.
Better bring me a birthday cake.
Your birthday?
Monday?
Oh, all right.
Get to sing happy birthday.
Hey, okay.
Want someone to jump out of the
Do a carrot cake, be nice.
You, Steve.
Thanks, everyone.
Motion adjourned for you guys.
So moved?
Not my meeting. You guys have to call it.